Calling to order the City of West Palm Beach City Commission meeting on Monday, August 18th. I'm President of the Commission, Christina Lambert, filling in for the Mayor. It is 5 p.m. We'll call the meeting to order. And as a reminder, we do have a civility and decorum code. Hopefully everybody abides by that, and we'll jump right in. Ms. Administrator, do we have any additions, deletions, or reorganization of the agenda?
No, we don't, Madam Mayor. Madam President, boy, I hope the mayor isn't watching. Madam President, no, we don't have any additions or deletions, but I do want to point out, bring to your attention that we need to go back to the call of order and do the moment of silence and the pledge.
Thank you. I jumped right into it. I
Yes, you
appreciate
did.
that. At this time, we'll have a moment of silence. Commissioner Peduzzi, would you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, please?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Any questions or comments on the consent calendar? We'll consider items 6.1 through 6.13. Any questions or comments? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion for approval.
Madam President, I move to approve those items on consent, 6.1 to 6.13.
Second.
It's been a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Moving on to Resolution 7.1. Resolution number, or item 7.1 under resolutions. Resolution number 121-25, approving the agreement between Southeast Behavioral Health Network, Inc. and the City of West Palm Beach, accepting a grant in the amount not to exceed $1,477,477.60 for reimbursement of the Coordinated Opioid Response Network core services. And Resolution number 122-25F, approving the receipt and appropriation of the funds from the agreement between SF7 and the City of West Palm Beach to provide services for individuals struggling with substance use disorders and opioid addiction. And Resolution number 198-25F, approving the positions to the budget from the agreement between SF7 and the City of West Palm Beach in an amount not to exceed $1,477,060 for the reimbursement of core services. Thank you.
Good evening, Commissioners and staff. My name is Tom Moran. I'm the Division Chief of Emergency Medical Services for the Fire Department. And we're going to talk a little bit about CORE tonight, which is the Coordinated Opioid Recovery Program that we're attempting to begin at the Fire Department. So CORE is a grant-funded program that provides resources to individuals that are affected by the opioid crisis. It includes healthcare services and access to a network of addiction treatment specialists. The program was created to implement a comprehensive system of care for the opioid epidemic. It's a collaborative effort with Department of Health, Department of Children and Families, and ACA, and it's in 29 Florida counties right now. It provides a full spectrum of opioid substance use disorder needs, integrating EMS, emergency departments, treatment clinics, and peer navigators. And the ultimate goal of the program is to interrupt the cycle of overdosing for these individuals so that they can pursue treatment and ultimately recovery. So the fire department was approached by CORE to begin a program early in 2024. CORE wanted to extend their services to Palm Beach County, and due to the number of overdoses that the city was experiencing, West Palm Beach was chosen as a candidate. Some neighboring counties that have adopted a program include St. Lucie, Indian River, and Miami-Dade counties. So there's three components to the CORE model. The first responders, obviously, is the undertaking of the fire department. We would provide specialized training for our paramedics and protocols for overdose and withdrawal, and we would connect patients to recovery services. And then also we would partner with emergency departments for their stabilization and ultimately the long-term care clinics. So some of the fire department's role would include following up on patients after they were transported for opioid emergencies and offering enrollment into the program so that they can receive treatment. The ultimate goal is getting them into outpatient facilities, sort of like those that are offered by Healthcare District, who's also a core partner. So this is just an image showing how CORE utilizes the infinity symbol to show how an individual can enter the process at whatever point necessary between evaluating their needs and providing continued access to the program's resources, whether that be mental health evaluations, routine health care, or any social services. So the grant is being provided by Southeast Florida Behavioral Health Network. They are a managing entity that is contracted with Department of Children and Families, and they serve Palm Beach, Martin, St. Lucie, Indian River, and Okeechobee counties, and they would provide their resources based in mental health, substance abuse, and child welfare. And they were also instrumental partners in the Palm Beach County Opioid Task Force for several years. So this resolution covers the revenue, expenditures, and the positions associated with the program. The total amount is close to $1.5 million over 3 fiscal years, and that's with a zero match on the city's behalf. The funds are distributed for three years with some extra distribution up front to get the program up and running. And the grant does fund the entirety of the program with no match. It covers salaries and benefits for 1 lieutenant and 1 firefighter, and it covers vehicles, medical equipment, and any training and operational needs. So a few things that we would implement at the West Palm Beach Fire Department. We would provide EMS training, partnerships with our local hospitals and our clinics, and then follow up with data and analytics. So the fire department role would consist of establishing protocols for medically assisted treatment and administering medications like buprenorphine, which is a medication that binds to the opioid receptors in the brain to decrease or eliminate the patient's cravings for opioids. So it allows them to focus on their treatment and their recovery rather than battling their withdrawal symptoms. We would also partner with local hospitals, including JFK North, who's our current destination for addiction stabilization, as well as the Healthcare District for their outpatient treatment facilities. And they actually have a medically assisted treatment facility that's on the campus of JFK North in the city limits. And then ultimately, we would track the success of the program through data analytics and call volume and provide monthly reporting back to Southeast Florida Behavioral Health Network. So a few expected outcomes are paramedic or community partner referral. That would be for new candidates into the program as recognized by our paramedics in the field or community members. Initiation or continuation of medication for those individuals that are currently enrolled in the program. Obviously, the number one benefit would be the reduced opioid overdoses and deaths within the city and the surrounding areas, and increase our MAT engagement and patient retention in those treatment programs. And then ultimately, the goal is to provide long-term care for these individuals so that they can sort of graduate from the program and finish up with their recovery on their own. That's all I have for you tonight, unless there's any questions.
Thank you so much. I appreciate this. I understand we've been working on this for a while and appreciate the department's attention to this. I'm curious if you have if you know any data or statistics on, how the city is doing, our residents and the folks here on opioid issues that we're seeing. Are we seeing it? Is it declining? Is it increasing?
It is declining, yes. We're still averaging about 350 overdoses a year, given taking a couple of years worth of data. But we are seeing anecdotally that they're down, and as well as with our numbers. So I don't have the exact numbers, but I'm happy to gather those for you. But we are definitely seeing a decrease on the streets in overdoses.
Well, great. I'm glad we're being proactive and a partnership approach to this. Commissioners, any other questions? Commissioner Ward?
I just wanted to echo and say thank you for being so proactive. I know nationally, I understand that the numbers are going down, and I know it's because of programs like this and participating, so thank you very much.
Absolutely.
Commissioner Fox?
Thank you so much. I'm very happy to see this program moving forward. You mentioned that the grant is for 3 years, and I was just curious if there's any, I guess what the opportunity would be either to extend it or what our plan will be for sustaining the positions that we've hired for and the programs that were being covered with these positions. Thanks.
Sure. We do have a couple of options out there. One of them is tapping into the opioid remediation state funds that we are getting a distribution every year. We can use those to pay a portion of the salaries, and then we always have the option of reapplying with SF7 for another grant.
Commissioner Peduzzi?
Thank you. Just briefly, you mentioned 350 overdoses a year?
Approximately, taking a rolling 3 or 4 years.
And are those deaths?
Negative.
Just
no,
overdoses?
No. Just overdoses in general. We would have to do kind of a deeper dive to figure out exactly how many are severe versus, less severe, and then deaths is a whole nother subject, but that's just overall 350-ish per year. So even a 10% reduction in that number would yield the fire department a savings of approximately $90,000 with the cost that's associated with running calls.
Thank you. I'm relieved to hear that it's near overdoses, but not fatalities, so thank you.
Yes.
I'm curious, how does this affect our homeless population? And are we working closely with our homelessness outreach? Are they part of this coordination?
Absolutely, yeah. That would be part of building out the program, would be making those connections with other community associations and the police department and any homeless outreach organizations in the area, and finding out, if there's an area of concentration of patients that would benefit, then we would be pursuing those areas with our personnel. So they're tasked with going out and finding people that are good candidates for the program.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. Any other questions or comments? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion.
Madam President, I move approval of resolution number 121-25, resolution number 122-25F, and resolution number 198-25F.
Second.
There's been a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Resolution number 180-25, finding that a portion of the city-owned property located at 1450 South Olive Avenue is not needed for direct city purposes, declaring the property as surplus, and authorizing negotiations with the Norton Museum of Art on terms and conditions for a long-term ground lease for proposed public cultural art park.
Good afternoon, City Commissioners, City Administrator Armando Fana, Assistant City Administrator. So I'm here to present an exciting public cultural project for the city of West Palm Beach. I know all of you have gotten some information on it previously. This is going to be for the surplus resolution for the land that we're talking about that will form part of a cultural park that I will present some information on. Here, as you see the location, generally speaking, right just to the east of the Norton Art Gallery, in between Olive Avenue and Flagler Drive. And I'll talk about the historic significance of this area in a couple minutes as well. So the concept of this cultural park that will display significant art pieces along with beautiful landscaping that will be framed, as you can see, by the Intercoastal Waterway and with the Norton Art Gallery. So here, looking at a view of the concept layout, which you'll see a lot of greenery. Along the green areas that are noted there are the areas that we're looking at in terms of potentially the resolution here, in terms of what property would actually have the park in it. We're still working through some of the details on the utilities that are there, boundary issues. So ultimately, we'll come back with a final agreement that'll detail the layout of the park itself. But the resolution looks to have the surplus for this general footprint. It could be a little bit less or a little bit more, but this is the general footprint we're looking at in terms of actually doing the surplus. The resolution language, I believe, was corrected. I'll have to get with with Nancy Urchek on that, because the resolution language right now just includes basically the median strip and some of the traffic circle, but we may have those areas that you see to the north and south as well as green space that would be part of this park. So we'll work that out as we work the lease through. So a little bit of the history here. This is an actual map from 1907 of the general location we're discussing. You'll note the old Lakeside Cemetery, which is the general area where the Norton Museum now sits. So just east of that is where the area where the proposed cultural park would be. I kind of drew a crude blue line there that indicates where the landmass is now and where the coastline is now. So you'll see that all the infill that was done over the years in order to create what we have now, which I'll show you in the next map. So we're talking about one of the areas that was first settled in the city from the pioneers of the city, and you have the Woodland Cemetery there, you'll see in the map, which is in the same existing area that it is now. But a lot of the homesteads there were the original pioneers of the area, so we are looking at, again, one of the most historical areas within the city of West Palm Beach. So here you have an outline, and you'll see the coastline where I just mentioned the 1900s coastline, early 1900s coastline, and how it relates to the geography now. So I thought that was kind of interesting to see the changes in the city and where we're at now compared to where we were in the early 1900s. You also note that the Norton Museum entrance, the original entrance from the 1940s, aligns perfectly with the center of the proposed park, along with the visual to the intercoastal waterway. So there's nice symmetry there with how this would all line up. So the park would be open to the public and would host events as well throughout the year. There would be a signature art piece, and we'll get into more of the detail of the signature art piece once we come back to you with a final lease and concept. But it'll be a significant signature art piece that will front the intercoastal. So this is a view looking from the west to the east. So if you're looking towards the intercoastal, you would have the art piece. There would also potentially be sculptures along the perimeter as well. And again, those details will be worked through, and we'll present a more robust concept when we come back in several weeks or a couple months with the final agreement. Here's another rendering of what the park could look like. So the conceptual design of the park was done by world-renowned architect Norman Foster of Foster & Partners firm, which, as many of you know, is recognized for architectural masterpieces across the globe. So this is a huge opportunity for the city to really become a cultural hub in South Florida, not only with the museum itself, but with a park that's going to display significant pieces of art. And it really lines up very well with what we've created, or what we've helped create with our zoning just to the north of here, where you have a lot of the new buildings that are coming in. Flagler Drive now is getting a prominent promenade along the west side of Flagler that would connect to this park all the way to the Okeechobee district area. And so you'll have a walkway connecting from Okeechobee all the way to the park that'll have a number of significant art pieces, public art pieces, that the public will be able to enjoy ending in this beautiful park. So it's a great opportunity to really put us on the map as a cultural hub. Here's, I share another view that I thought was interesting. If you have a rooftop view from the Norton Art Gallery looking east, you can see again the lush landscaping that would be included in this, and that's another thing we'll be working through with the Norton Art Gallery, and also with Related, who is part of this, because Related is building South Flagler House right next door. They have a requirement within their site plan for a number of trees that need to go into this area. As you can see here, there's going to be a lot of landscaping and trees already included. So we'll need to work through how we make sure that the site plans line up with what the Related's doing and what ultimately the cultural park will have, because we'll have plenty of landscaping and plenty of greenery on this space along with the world-class art. So what we're doing here is surplusing the property, allowing us to enter into further negotiations with the Norton and other parties who were involved in order to come up with the terms and conditions. So we had to confirm what the boundaries are. As I mentioned before, there is a utility line going through that. We'll need to work through the details of how that, make sure we have access to that. The ultimate maintenance responsibilities, we believe most of this maintenance will fall upon the donors for the park. The city will not be responsible for payment for the art or for the actual design or any other construction that'll take place in the park. The city will likely still maintain the road, the roundabout, and maybe some other things around that area as we do now. Finalize the terms and conditions as I mentioned, and then we'll come back to you in a few weeks or months to present the final concept for the park along with the terms of the lease agreement. Which will be a long-term lease as we've done with the golf park, the Science Museum, and other facilities in the recent past. So it'll be very similar to what we've done there. And with that, I will ask Harvey Ori, is there anything you wanted to add? No. Okay. Great. With that, I'll take any questions.
Thank you, Administrator Fana. I appreciate that. It certainly looks beautiful, and just in these renderings, I appreciate your comments about the lush landscaping. I believe it's pretty bare right now, and so to have a public space that we can add, shade to, and the walkability to the water, that would be great. I understand negotiations are still in progress, and that will come to the commission at a later time, but just want to make sure that this land will remain open to the public.
Yes, so it'll be open to the public just as it is now. We'll work on the details in terms of there'll be events on occasion. Some will probably be city-sponsored events. Some may be private events by the Norton, but that would be treated just like we would treat any other special event that we do now, like on the waterfront, where there is a special event permit that would be pulled for those events.
Well, it'd be great to see that activated.
Yeah, absolutely. And then, you have the proximity to the PBAU as well with the expansion going on there. So it'll just be a lot more activity than what is happening now.
Great. Madam Attorney?
If I may, I just wanted to let the commission know that the resolution has been amended as presented by Armando. So the resolution is authorizing the surplus of the entire area depicted as shown by Mr. Fana, and then we will negotiate and bring back the negotiated terms to you for consideration in the future.
Thank you for that clarification.
Thank you. Any questions or comments? Nope. Okay. All right. Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion.
Madam President, excuse me, I move approval of resolution number 180-25.
Second. There's been a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
Item 7.3 is resolution number 188-25, amending resolution number 29-22 and approving the change to the face of the city for the proposed design concept for North Railroad Avenue streetscape between 10th Street and 11th Street.
Good evening, Commissioners. Chris Kimmerly, Senior Urban Designer. I will present the applicant's portion here for the Nora streetscape. So back in February of 2022, you all approved the face of the city change for North Railroad Avenue that extended from 7th Street up to 10th Street. Within this new design for North Railroad Avenue, there was a curbless street, new hardscaping with pavers, narrowing of the travel lanes, widening of the sidewalks, additional landscaping, lights, and signage. And so this piece that we're bringing for you today is just the terminus portion, so from 10th to 11th Street, just that little bit of space here, and then out in front of the Nora Hotel that's currently in construction. Again, we have an abundance of landscaping going into the space in terms of materiality and texture. Again, the intent was to very much keep with the railroad aesthetic, also the former industrial uses that were in there, so they're now converted into commercial uses, so we keep that materiality as well. Here is a conceptual render of what the last leg of North Railroad Avenue will look like. So again, it is a curbless street similar to Rosemary or Clematis. It will feature these pavers here, so give a more tactile feel to the streets, encouraging slower speeds, allowing for pedestrian activities, closing of the roadways, things like that as Nora progresses. Again, here's some more shots of that. They will feature bike racks. There's a micro-mobility station, so we have the Bright Bike stations located here, as well as Uber and Lyft drop-offs. And then along that corridor will also be continuous open spaces. And then I will go to my portion of the presentation. And just say that as part of this resolution, here is the progress updates for the section from 7th to 10th Street. So as you can see, it's really coming along quite nicely with the landscaping installed, the signage, lighting, and so forth. Again, here are some of the projects, and again, that streetscape. So this will be a continuation of that previously approved streetscape just for that last terminus portion. The Downtown Action Committee did hear this item and make a recommendation with a final vote of 4-0, and staff supports the request as well if there are any questions.
I do have a question. Thank you so much. I have a question. Could you pull up the first slide where it showed where this is taking place? Is that the entrance or one of the entrances into the community?
Yes, so currently where Nora is situated, you have Quadro here, so this is 7th Street, so that's the first entry really into the district, or 6th Street, you could take that as well. And then 11th Street, 10th Street, 9th, 8th, those are another residential streets that lead into the district. So it's between Palm Beach Lakes and the Quadro, the FEC Railroad, and Dixie Highway is that area.
Okay, and I don't know if this is part of the presentation or if it was more the design and the look, but you mentioned Uber and Lyft spots, and I was somewhere recently where they put one little share ride spot, and there were 3 cars lining up for it. And I just would hope that we're thinking, especially if we're at the end, one of the entrances, so that it doesn't create bottleneck and more traffic.
Yeah, so I can touch on that. It's not shown here in this plan, but most of the district actually will be operated by valet. So most of the commercial properties that are on the western side of Railroad Avenue now don't have parking. So in this Palm Beach Lakes and Spruce corner, there's a large surface parking lot. And then on 8th Street and 9th Street, there's also surface parking lots. And so the valet services will obviously take patrons to those locations. And then the Uber Lyft drop-offs are just on that North Railroad Avenue corridor. There's multiple of them. I think on the 7th to 10th Street portion, I think there's about 2 or 3 per side of the street. And then in front of the portion here, the hotel has their drop-off separately. And then there's an additional Uber Lyft drop-off. And then on the other side, you see what these are shown as on-street parking, but really it's additional drop-off spaces or short-term, 15-minute parking.
Well, I hope it's uber successful and that there's plenty of people visiting. It was Brightline that I was recently at, and they have one little spot there for Uber and Lyft, and it just created, a cluster of cars and people. And so new world we're in now, thinking about that stuff. So thank you so much. Commissioners, any other questions or comments? Thank you. I'll entertain a motion for this item.
Madam President, I move to approve resolution number 188-25.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion has been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Moving on to public hearing item 8.1. Public hearing of resolution number 186-25, establishing the rates for the fire service assessment fee for fiscal year 2025, 2026, and approving the assessment roll.
Good evening, Commission President, Commissioners. Bridget Souffrant, Chief Financial Officer. The resolution in front of you tonight is for our annual fire assessment fee rate for the upcoming fiscal year 2025-2026 for adoption. If you remember at the July 17th special commission meeting, we proposed the preliminary fire assessment fee rate, which was discussed and approved at that time. As a reminder, our rates are not changing from last year.
Thank you. Commissioners, any questions, comments? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion.
Madam President, I move approval of resolution number 186-25 with no increase in the fire service assessment fee.
Second.
Motion has been moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. And you're back again. 8.2, public hearing of resolution number 187-25, adopting the assessment roll for the chronic nuisance assessment for the fiscal year of 2025-2026, which includes properties with unpaid charges for the abatement of code violations and chronic nuisance.
Good evening again, Bridget Souffrant, Chief Financial Officer. Before you is the resolution for the chronic nuisance assessment roll to be approved for 2025-2026. Again, we spoke at the special commission meeting on July 17th, where I was directed to compile the list of the unpaid chronic nuisance charges to become special assessments levied against the benefited properties. So we are respectfully asking for your approval tonight.
Thank you. Commissioners, any questions or comments? Yes, Commissioner Fox?
Thank you so much. I just wanted to ask about the ability for an appeal or objection. I know that it mentions that the residents had 20 days from the date of the notice. I'm curious, have you received any objections, or what happens if you do? Like, what are the next steps?
Sure. So we have received one in writing. They have the ability to come in person and request to speak with someone. They generally first start at the clerk's office and then get called. I get called from finance to speak with them, or they can submit it in writing. And when they submit some form of objection, we review the file on that to ensure that everything is charged appropriately, there's no errors in that. And once we validate that and know that we have the legal justification for it to be a lien special assessed on their property, there generally isn't any further action to be taken other than communicating with that individual saying, we have looked at it, all the charges are fair, they are accurate, they are up to date, and the fee still stands. We do work with people that are on this list. They have right now until September 12th to still come in and pay if they have the ability to pay or make a partial payment before we submit the final file to the county to be included on their tax bill.
Yep.
You just mentioned if they have the ability to pay. Is there a hardship situation that we have?
No, just meaning if they want to pay now before it actually hits the tax bill.
Okay. And if they were going to sell the property, does it all get attached to the sale, or does it have to be fixed before that can happen?
It does not have to be fixed. It is attached to the property. So it will be coming out on their tax bill, which means it'll be attached to the property. If they make, installment payments for their tax bill, it'll, be a part of that. And then it can also be handled during a sale, but it will be attached to the property once it goes on the roll in September.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for those questions. I had a similar thought related to the hardships. I wasn't sure if we flag or see any, abnormalities in these where, I heard a story recently of someone losing their house over a $14,000 assessment or lien. I'm not sure, the full details, but that if, we could connect them to legal aid or something like that. Is there any kind of outreach that we do, or just kind of flagging of things that look like, I don't know, like it could be helped or prevented?
There's definitely outreach where they're receiving notices to the property and to the owner on file of any of the chronic nuisance items that are ultimately shown up here at this point in time. Regarding hardship, I'm going to turn to the city attorney and see if she has any guidance.
The chronic nuisance properties are properties that have continually been unkept for a long period of time. They're properties that the code enforcement officers have repeatedly gone out and attempted to get compliance prior to it being able to become chronic nuisance. And that's why, as a commission, we adopted the chronic nuisance property code so that these properties that continue to be unkept can be kept. The city then incurs charges to keep property that the property owners are not keeping. There's not a provision in the code that allows for us to reduce that amount for some and not others. It's just a, as it was codified, it's a fairness charge. It's the charge that the city is being charged to provide those services that get then put back on the property to be repaid to the city.
Understood. Thank you. Administrator Johnson, are you contemplating a comment?
Yes, I just wanted to make it clear when we say charges, it's actually money that the city has put out to either mow the lawn or to board up the properties. So we're really trying to just recoup what we have put out, you know, to bring these properties either in compliance or to secure them so that they are not a detriment to the community by leaving them open and then someone can get into an open and unboarded property.
And to add to Ms. Johnson's comment, there are some charges also for the code enforcement officers who go back and re-inspect before the services are provided to make sure that, in fact, the property is still out of compliance so they don't get charged wrongfully. So there's some charges for administrative time to making sure that the property comes into compliance.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Is that on this one? Yes. Okay. Looks like Cam Sylvester for public comment. Please. You have 3 minutes. Please introduce yourself and state your address.
Good afternoon, commissioners and members, board. Thank you for giving me this opportunity. My name is Cam Sylvester. The reason I'm here is because like beginning of August 1st or 2nd, I received the copy of this letter about chronic nuisance. Okay, and I did not know anything about it. I bought this property on auction December 16 last year. The only bill I have been receiving from the city has been only for my water that I set up automatic payment. The only reason I bought this property is because of the land. My plan is to demolish that house. And there are other issues that I was not aware of until I received that letter, and then I start to call the city, and then that's when I found out with all of the issue. But I come here trying to resolve it because I have been sending people to clean for me, but I guess there was somebody cleaning at the same time from the city that I was not aware of. And I come just to ask, or the city can help me because I'm trying to resolve the issue as soon as possible. And as I am from Massachusetts, I flew here just to try to get an idea what to do next. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Administrator Johnson, is there someone who might be able to speak with this property owner?
Ms. Ferrier, do you know the particulars?
I do.
Okay, go right ahead, please.
Well, I was just going to say, if maybe you want to speak with him after or outside, Ms. Ferrier will speak with you about this. Thank you so much for coming to bring this to our attention.
Thank you very much for this opportunity.
Mr. President, we have spoken with him prior to this meeting tonight.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments or questions? Yes, Commissioner Fox.
Thank you. Just to clarify, so if somebody bought a property and there were issues, how would they know about it? Is there something that comes with the deed that says these things are pending, or how would they know about it, I guess?
If I may, I'll go ahead and answer that question. This particular property was purchased at tax deed sale. The chronic nuisance service orders are recorded in the public records, and there are obligations on behalf of persons who purchase properties to know what it is that they're buying, and this was of record at the time. If, in fact, that there was something that when Ms. Ferrier speaks with the property owner, that there's an error, even if you approve tonight the roll, if we find an error, the finance department retains the ability to make corrections to the roll even after you all adopt it.
And we have validated with Ms. Ferriel as well as finance that all the charges that are here are accurate.
Okay. Thank you for your attention. It's important matters. Appreciate it. Hearing no, oh, yes, Commissioner Warren.
I'm curious about whether or not the amount of time that residents have to respond once they receive the original notification. So there's a 20 days, and is that that's the only notice that they have? They receive the notice, and then they have 20 days to respond, and after that, then they incur charges, or do they incur charges prior
No, they've
to?
been incurring the charges. The charges occurred when the work was done and they were noticed through the appropriate code enforcement process. This is letting them know because they have these outstanding balances that they haven't paid. We are now moving forward with the special assessment process. So that special assessment process from that special meeting on July 17th is where you direct me to create the role. When we create that role, we are running what's outstanding in our system for code enforcement, chronic nuisance items. We then issue a letter and a notice from finance. The owners already received various notices per charge from code enforcement. They then receive a letter from my department saying, you are owed this, you have 20 days to show up and talk with us, or to pay it, or to submit something in writing. So they have that time. We show up here again tonight. I'm directed to do the role, but we still decide to work with them and collect payment if they want to collect payment, and if they would call us tomorrow and say, we have a question, and if we will research it, and if we find that there's an error, we will naturally handle it at that point in time. But September 12th is our cutoff to get all of that data to the county. So after that point, there's nothing that we can do. It'll go on the roll, and then we'll have to have conversation after that if there's an error.
And if I can add to that, Commissioner, the 20-day notice that she's speaking of is a statutory notice that's required before you can impose the assessment on the roll. So it's a requirement of the statute to create these special assessments.
Okay, and these properties are typically, not always, but typically abandoned and contributing to blight and other ills in community that we're hoping to overcome.
In most cases, yes.
Thank you so much. No other questions. I'll entertain a motion.
Madam President, I move approval of resolution number 187-25.
Second.
Thank you. There's been a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Moving on to item number 8.3, public hearing and first reading of ordinance number 5138-25 regarding a request by Lindsay Jean-Louis of Urban Design Studio on behalf of Huizenga Holdings, Inc. for a text amendment to Chapter 94, Article 3, Section 94-72, Single-Family Low-Density District, SF7, and 94-74, Single-Family High-Density District, SF14, of the city's zoning and zoning, of the city's zoning and land development regulations to allow for revised dimensional lot requirements, setback requirements, and exceptions for the SF7 and the SF14 specific to lots located east of Broadway Avenue, west of North Flagler Drive, north of 40th Street, and south of 45th Street. Mr. Tuma, welcome.
Good evening, President, Commissioners. Ken Tuma with Urban Design Studio. My address is 610 Clematis Street, West Palm Beach, Florida, 33401. Thank you for having me here this evening. Just a quick presentation this evening, but what's occurring is we're requesting a privately initiated amendment to your single-family 7 and your single-family 14 zoning district, as the President indicated, is in a very specific area, north of 40th Street, south of 45th Street, west of Flagler, and east of Broadway. I'm going to walk you through a series of slides and then answer any questions you may have. I promise to move fairly quickly this evening. The request is the opportunity to redevelop an area that the Huizenga Holding Group has purchased many lots within this specific area over the course of the time. On the screen in front of you is the request that we have today, again, to modify those two specific zoning districts. Also, it's important to note that there is a plat in process for the lots east of Spruce Avenue today. The reason why we're doing this, it goes back in history to a plat that was done in 1916. This plat in 1916 had 25-foot wide lots that were 105 feet deep. Different than a majority of the rest of the city where the lots were wider and definitely deeper. The area that is in the review today are these 25-foot wide lots. Those lots over the course of time were connected together by deeds or whatever purpose to make them 50 feet wide. And it is an opportunity to do an infill redevelopment. So this is a subject site on the screen in front of you, identified by the red line. You'll note that there are two zoning districts, single family 14, single family 7. The request is to modify those districts, again, west of Flagler, east of Broadway. The area in purple is a zoning district known as B-MUD, where you have already implemented revisions to that area to allow for redevelopment. This is a specific plat way back in 1916 during World War I. That plat identified these as 25-foot wide lots, and it never got built that way. And the bottom left-hand side is a picture of how the area got developed today. And they were developed by many different means. We're not exactly sure how the lots were combined together. Some were done by deeds. There's been transfer of land from one property owner to the other. Nothing is perfect out there. And in redevelopment, nothing is ever perfect. So our goal is to try to make a code that allows this area to redevelop that just doesn't affect the properties that Huizinga Holdings and GL have, but also that entire area to help with redevelopment. Your staff made a great suggestion to us. What is compliant and what's not compliant out there today with today's zoning codes? On the screen in front of you are the excuse me. On the screen in front of you are the areas identified within the study area. There are 150 lots, and with today's zoning code, only 21 lots actually meet the requirements. So this change will just not affect the lots that Huizinga Group owns. It will affect all the lots within the area. So these are the lands that are owned currently by the Huizinga Group, identified in purple. These are the charts of the changes. I'm not going to walk you through that. I'm going to walk you through the pretty pictures and go fairly quickly through them. So first thing, your code requires a minimum lot width. The minimum lot width is 60 feet. Those existing lots today are 50 feet. So we're requesting to modify that to 49 feet. The reason for that additional foot is to allow flexibility in the area because some of the lots aren't perfect. The second part of the modification is the code requires a minimum lot size of 60,000 feet. Our request is to make that to 6,000 square feet at a minimum size, and our request is to make that 5,000 square feet. The front setback, we're requesting to modify the front setback. Today, the majority of the homes don't fit within the front setback. The code requirement is a 25-foot setback. Our request is to make it match closer to what's out there today. The concept is to have the garage be at 20 feet and then allow the building to come out to 18 feet. That'll create some nice diversity in product by having the building extend out a little bit, but still keeping the face of the garage at 20 feet. The next request is side setback. The way the code works today, what's built out there, but the way the code works today is you're required to have 5 feet of setback on one side, 10 feet of setback on the other for a total of 15. Our request is to modify that to 5 feet on both sides for a total of 10 feet. Again, fairly consistent with the majority of the product that is built out there today. Rear setback. The rear setback by code is 15 feet. Our request is to modify that in this area to 10 feet. When you look at the area and you look at that area in an aerial view, a majority of the homes have encroached even into that 10-foot setback. But for the new homes being redeveloped, the 10-foot is the appropriate setback for that area. Minimum corner setbacks. Along Spruce Avenue, the code requirement would say you have to have the house 12.5 feet off the right-of-way. Our request is to reduce that down to 5 feet, again, consistent with some of the homes that are constructed out there today, so that side setback then would be 5 feet minimum. We understand that it's important for the city, and it was a big comment at the planning board that we make sure the AC equipment's not in the area. Fully recognize that, great comment. It will be on the other side of the house, on the internal side. The second part is that we will be required to have a corner clip, which is consistent with the city code, and we will keep that corner clip as consistent with the city code. Also, we are requesting, though a slide is missing, we're requesting a similar waiver for the accessory structure, which is in that area. The accessory structures, when you have a side setback, you have to have them match. You can't have a 5-foot side setback and then have a 12.5-foot setback for an accessory structure. So we're making that consistent. And then on the front yard standards involve an amount of landscaping area. The code requires 60% of the front yard be a permeable paver system. Our request, we have one home that is a 3-car home or 3-car garage. So there are 2 driveways, one that is a double driveway and one's a single driveway. And our request is to allow reduction in that permeable area by 15% down to 45%. This will allow us to have that 3-car front-loaded garage. Also associated with that, identified on the screen in front of you, is the green areas. You will note that the driveway here and the driveway here is separated by 3.5 feet green strip. The code requires that the maximum driveway be 20 feet. Our request is to allow it to go to 26 feet for this particular structure of home. In your code, there are very specific amendments that we have to meet, or standards. Your staff has agreed that we have met all of those amendments, and on the screen in front of you, identified all of those that comply. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions you may have. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioners, any questions or comments? Commissioner Fox?
Thank you so much for the presentation. I just wanted to clarify, I know that not all the homes are owned by the developer, and so will the homes that are not owned by the developer, will any of them be out of compliance, or what happens if they are they grandfathered into what is currently there?
I think I'm going to let your staff answer the out of compliance part, but I'm going to answer if they decide to rebuild their home, they're in a better situation with this overlay. It allows them to develop more of their lot area.
All right, good day, Commissioners. Jeremy Swaby, Planning and Zoning Senior Planner. So to answer your question, currently, as it exists, there are lots that are not meeting that standard. They're grandfathered in, and if it is that they plan to redevelop, then they'll have to comply with the zoning for this specific area.
Can you talk a little bit more about the AC equipment? I didn't quite understand that, and because I would imagine you're talking about the specific designs of the house that Hyzenga Holdings is building, but will this also apply to any other property owners as well?
Yes, this would apply to everyone within that area.
Okay, and can you describe that a little bit more? I didn't quite understand.
Thank you, President. I did not do a great job. Let me walk you back through that one. Along Spruce Avenue, because it's on a side street, you're required to set the house back per today's code 12.5 feet from the right-of-way. When you drive down Spruce Avenue today, you'll note a majority of the houses are pushed closer than that. Our request is to reduce that setback down to 5 feet, so the edge of the wall will be 5 feet off the right-of-way line. Along Spruce Avenue, specifically, the mechanical equipment for air conditioning is prohibited within that 5-foot corner setback. So along Spruce, any mechanical equipment would need to be interior. So if you're looking north and the house is on the east side, it would be the mechanical equipment can't be on the road side, it has to be on the other side.
Okay, great, thank you. And while you're up here, I did have a question about the reduction in landscaping for the 3-car garage. I know in a presentation I saw that there are many homes that are out of compliance for this, and that landscaping strip will add some element of green, but do you mind just kind of describing that again as well? Because I certainly understand, the need for this request, but I just want to make sure we're not giving up additional greenery or permeable space unnecessarily.
Sure, totally understand, and I'm actually looking for a few slides here to show you. You got it. You know where they live. Thank you. When you look out there, I was looking for some existing condition slides. We had a pretty significant amount of those slides. A lot of impervious area. I mean, a lot of driveways and cars are parked in different areas. The driveways are built all pretty significant size. Some of the houses have a lot of concrete and pavement in front of them. But on the screen in front of you is the proposal. The proposal is to reduce the front yard landscape area, not the landscape, but the area of landscape, reducing it down from 60% in the front to 45% in the front. But it's really important. This is not going to be a 3-car driveway all the way up, paved all the way across. The design concept is very simple. We are going to provide landscape area on the east side and the west side of the driveway. The driveway itself are typically 20 feet wide in this area. This one is actually 16.1 feet. And then we're proposing a 3-foot, 6-inch break in the middle that will have landscaping and will have sod in it. And then the additional driveway for a single car or single loaded driveway would be right here, and that's 8 feet. So just for a frame of reference, this particular model, the actual asphalt, the actual concrete area is 24.2 feet. So
Great.
It's not a total of 26.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Any other questions, commissioners? Any public comment? Thank you so much. We'll entertain a motion. Oh, I'm sorry. I thought that was your report. Thank you.
Yes, just before we start, just want to reiterate that the conditions which are existing will remain unless they plan to, within the area, redevelop or change the lot, do certain changes, then they'll have to abide with the proposed regulations. So just to state that, and also the 45% is with relation to the proposed 3-car garage. So unless they're providing that, then that's the only way they could get that with the pavers. All right, so just a small follow-up to the applicant's presentation for ordinance 5138-25. So the request is to revise and reduce the dimensional requirements relating to the minimum lot dimensions, the minimum front, side, rear setbacks for the principal building, the required landscape area within the front yard, and the maximum driveway width. All right, so just to go through quickly and add some findings. So the data provided by the applicant setback study indicated that the average front setback within the area is 17.74 feet, which is closer to the proposed 18-foot setback. Also, staff did an estimate of the increase in buildable area for the typical 50 by 105-foot lot, and this is relative to the decrease in the setbacks, with the increased buildable area shown in yellow, and the reduction in setback would result in an increased buildable area of 627 square feet or more per lot. All right, so staff would like to add that there were some concerns with the request, which required additional discussion and follow-up by the applicant. And the first was ensuring that the changes will not negatively affect stormwater capacity with the reduced permeable area, and the applicant provided a study which was requested and deemed satisfactory by staff. Also, the second was the maintenance of the neighborhood character with regards to the landscaping and tree canopy in the front yard, which was touched on. The diagram that you're looking at before, starting from right to left, illustrates a typical 50-foot wide lot, and the first one on the right is at 75% with the landscape required for the front yard based on our current code. And then also in the center, you see the 60-foot landscaping required for the provision of pavers according to the current code. And then to the left, you'll see the proposed 45% landscaping with pavers based on the reduced setback. So just a little illustration so you could see the differences. And I'd like to add that the request was seen by Planning Board, who voted in favor, 5 votes to 2. All right, so for the findings and analysis, staff finds that the request complies with the amendment standards found in section 94-32A, and therefore recommends approval of the ordinance number 5138-25. Thank you.
Thank you for the presentation. I appreciate that. Commissioners, any questions or comments for staff? Commissioner Fox?
Thank you so much. I think this question is actually for the applicant, but I'm just curious what communication has been done with the neighbors, especially the neighbors that the neighbors that are staying in their homes that are going to be in this area. I just want to make sure that they're aware that this change is coming and if there was any feedback that we should know about. Thanks.
I'm going to bring up the gentleman who does the walking through the neighborhood.
Commissioners, hello, Madam President. We're very excited to be here today. This is part of a much bigger plan. Sorry, Carlos Figuera, 4200 North Flagler. This just a little excited to be here. This is I think the first step of many times that hopefully I'll be standing here before you with different chapters that we'll be presenting for the north end of West Palm Beach. Ever since the Nora development, a lot of changes have been happening on the north end, and I think that you can be very pleased with the different chapters that you'll see in the general public as well. We've been doing a lot of outreach for a decade now. I'm talking about the north end and understanding exactly what happens up on the north end. The needs are too long to discuss today. This is just one little small sliver, but it involves healthcare, it involves education, it involves housing, affordable housing, attainable housing, workforce housing, all the different terms which may seem like the same term to most people, but they are not the same term to us, and we understand the difference very clearly. This is one piece that we think, working with your staff, we've been able to come up with great compromises that will create a community of the future that will take West Palm Beach in a new direction on the north end. And so specifically to the communication with neighbors, we've had all kinds of communications, one-on-one, in group settings over the years. Specifically in this area, we do not have too many long-term residents that still remain in this area. However, those that do are supportive and understand the opportunities for them both short-term and long-term, whether they wish to stay or they wish to move on to somewhere else. I cannot speak for them, but we think that that we're creating opportunities for them in whatever their desires may be.
Thank you. Glad you got a chance to tell us a little bit more about that. Thank you.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Any other comments or questions? Any public comment? No? All right. I'll entertain a motion.
Madam President, and it has been a long time coming, and I'm excited to make this motion. I move to approve ordinance number 5138-25 on first reading and schedule second reading for September 2nd, 2025. This motion is based upon the factual testimony presented, the application submitted, the staff report, the recommendation of the Planning Board, and the findings that the text amendment is consistent with the comprehensive plan and complies with the standards found in section 94-32 of the city's zoning and land development regulations.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
A motion and a second has been made. All those in favor?
Aye.
No, and we have to read the ordinance.
Oh, thank you. Madam Clerk?
Ordinance number 5138-25, an ordinance of the City Commission of the City of West Palm Beach, Florida, amending the Code of Ordinances of the City of West Palm Beach, Florida, at Chapter 94, Zoning and Land Development Regulations, Article 3, Residential Districts, Section 94-72, Single Family Low Density, SF7 Residential District, and Section 94-74, single-family high-density SF14 residential district relating to regulations governing properties generally located between 40th Street and 45th Street to the east of Florida State Road A18 and west of North Flagler Drive, declaring this amendment to be consistent with the comprehensive plan of the city, providing a conflict clause, a codification clause, and a severability clause, providing an effective date, and for other purposes.
Thank you so much. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Item number 8.4, public hearing and first reading of ordinance number 5139-25, amending the zoning and land development regulations, ZLDRs, to create development regulations for the North Flagler Overlay District.
Good evening, Commissioners. Ana Maria Ponte, Development Services Director. We're going to start with a brief background of what has been happening. So we wanted to just start with this picture that I found. We did some research to identify what has been happening in this area. And you can see this picture is from the 70s. And you can see two large towers already in there. The Palm Beach House and the Placido Mar are both in there. So it's just to show us how this area and the properties along the Flagler waterfront have been attractive for high-rise since the 70s. So this, what we are feeling right now and living right now, is not a new phenomenon. It has been going for many years. It's very attractive for redevelopment, and it follows the pattern of redevelopment of South Florida. Properties along the water have the highest value, and people want to live there, and they basically command high-rise redevelopment buildings. So what has happened is the redevelopment process has changed a little bit. So in the 70s, when these two towers that are located along this area were developed, they were developed as tall buildings. They are 255 and 283 feet each. But the pattern was a little bit different because the parcels were larger parcels, and also they were developed just as a surface parking lot. So that makes a huge difference on how the pattern of development is done and the impact into the neighborhood. But just to give you an idea of how they are placed, they are basically located closer to the water and leave some room for the neighborhood. And then have basically been living with the neighborhood for many years. In recent years, the development interest along the waterfront has increased, and the pattern of development has changed a little bit. The request for the tall buildings still remains, so the interest is still there, and we're getting, as we move along the years, the buildings want to be taller and taller. But the big difference, I think, is the parking structures. So now these buildings are developing in way smaller sites, and they have to be developed with parking structures. So that impacts how the development pattern is. And just to show you some of the examples of the building had been approved in the area in the recent years, we have the Icon Marina that was, it's already completed, and it's a much larger site, but the building that was approved and built, it has 235 feet in height. The Alba that was approved and it's under construction, it's 235. And the Apogee that was approved earlier this year is at 235 feet. They are kind of similar in pattern, but I mean, they all have parking structures and placed differently on the sides due to the size of their parcels. Based on these new projects coming in, the committee raised some concerns with the possible impacts of the new development along the corridor. And I think the main questions were how big the new buildings would be in the area and what the impact will have in the community. And also, what is the community benefit after these new constructions come in the area? What will be the benefit for the single-family residential neighborhood that is located on the west side of Flagler Drive? This is an image that was presented by one of the applicants and show you kind of the extent of the development. So it's substantial what is coming, and that's why we're here trying to put together some ideas of how to just put some parameters on the redevelopment so we have a clear standards. So when we look at this, it's basically the main question is how big the buildings would be. And the analysis is done basically on two concepts. how tall the buildings are, and how they are placed on the site. And the combination of these two elements is what is gonna give us the compatible relationship with the low-scale single-family neighborhood. So we have been working on trying to come up with some ideas and massing exercise, analyzing kind of the elements that we can work with. And our first approach was to basically the concept of how the relationship of the width of the street and the west facing of the buildings and the new buildings. So we work with a traditional urban design concept that talks about the comfort level of the pedestrian relies when you are in a street that has the width of the street is related to the height of the building. So we use this to create a kind of a building envelope that will kind of provide a bigger mass of the building, but then the development capacity that is provided, the buildings will not be able to fill this envelope. And then we provide some parameters, and based on what the market is providing, we'll produce some buildings that are more compatible with the neighborhood. So the main element, or one of the first element, is provide a compatible frontage along Flagler Drive. And this is important because when you have single family across the street on the west side of Flagler Drive, reducing the scale of the building and how that lower scale is approaching that frontage will make a substantial difference. So in these two pictures, they are not great examples, but the intent is that the frontage of those new buildings along Flagler provides some friendly face towards the neighborhood. And we have had discussions with some of the applicants about having residential units. It's not very attractive for them, and we understand why. They are limited on the density. It's only 32 dwelling units per acre, so they prefer to put those units on the tower where they're gonna make the most money for it. So it's totally understandable, but that doesn't mean that the frontage of those buildings on Flagler could not be a friendly face to the neighborhood. So these, we are proposing regulations that will basically require them to have some type of use in there that could be things like just a simple pedestrian entrance. So they have a lobby from Flagler, so people, if they decide to go out to walk their dog, they feel they can enter the building from Flagler. Or they can have amenities for the residents. They could have the offices for the manager and things like that that will provide windows and face frontage on Flagler. So it doesn't have to be the units, and we understand that. If they ever decide to do it, that will be awesome, but we are not pushing for that. So that's kind of how to address the single-family neighborhood and create the neighborhood feeling. That is what will make the high-rise buildings basically match and do the transition towards the single-family neighborhood. The second point is how to situate the building itself, the tower. We know we're gonna get the towers. We're gonna have this pressure to have the high-rise buildings. So the idea is to allow the location or to push the location of those towers as farther away from the Flagler and the single-family residents as possible. Allow smaller setbacks, for example, for the parking elements, so you can make the parking podium as efficient as possible. So we look at the regulation and trying to make the width of the sites to fit the most efficient parking podium, so they are lower instead of higher. So that will push the towers farther away to Flagler and kind of leave, provide some room for the neighborhood to kind of make that transition to the tall building. And the last point was the community benefit. So the way we are proposing the regulation is to create an overlay district, so it's an incentive. So the by right based on it remains as MF32, and then what the proposed overlay is create an incentive district. So the developer provides a community benefit in exchange for the option to develop a new building beyond the parameters of the current code provisions. So now Kevin DeFrank, the principal planner that has been working very hard on this, is going to explain the details of the code and go over the specific regulations.
Thank you. Thank you, Hannah. Good evening, Madam President and Commissioners. For the record, Kevin DeFrank, Senior Planner with the City's Development Services Department. This city-initiated request involves amendments to sections 94-36, 94-38, 94-57, 94-236, and 94-611 of the city's zoning and land development regulations to introduce and establish the proposed North Flagler Overlay District. And the area for the proposed North Flagler Overlay District is bounded by the city limits to the north, the Intracoastal Waterway to the east, 44th Street to the south, and North Flagler Drive to the west, which is approximately 65 acres of land that includes privately owned and publicly owned property. And the intent for the proposed development regulations is to create a place of common vision and physical predictability for new construction along the waterfront, to reinforce the existing architectural character within the area, and to provide for development projects that are complementary to the surrounding residential neighborhood. And this can be achieved by establishing parameters such as floor area ratio requirements, setbacks, height, architectural design, and parking. And it is important to note that the proposed regulation prohibits floor area ratio variances, front and side setback variances, height variances, and new planned development zoning districts. So the proposed development regulations identifies maximum floor area ratio limitations, as you see in the table. It's a maximum floor area limitation of 2.5 for properties with a lot width less than or equal to 100 feet, and a maximum floor area ratio limitation of 3.0 for properties with a lot width greater than 100 feet. And again, this is just to help limit the size and massing of new buildings within the proposed district. The development regulation also identifies conditional minimum front and side setback requirements for portions of buildings above the height of 40 feet, as you can see on this table. And here's a visual of the proposed requirements. So the Flagler Drive 60-foot-ROW label represents the North Flagler Drive right-of-way area, and the shapes in gray represents the buildings. And as you can see, as the height of the buildings increases, the front setback requirements increases. Again, to reflect what Anna was explaining in the background earlier in the presentation. The proposed regulations also identify an exterior lighting illumination limitation of 0.5 foot candles. And currently in our regulations for planned development zoning districts, we require, or there's a limitation of 1 foot candle for new planned developments. So this is slightly more restrictive. So the proposed regulations identify a permitted base height of 40 feet, and it identifies maximum building height limitations of 240 feet for buildings located on properties with an aggregate of upland and submerged land acreage of less than 2.5 acres, and a maximum building height limitation of 300 feet for buildings located on properties of 2.5 acres or more, with the height bonus incentive. So the proposed height bonus incentive offers property owners and developers 2 options. The first option is to provide a monetary contribution to the city of $10.98 per square foot of gross building area above the permitted base height of 40 feet. And the other option is for developers to construct improvements to the infrastructure within the area bounded by the city limits to the north, Broadway to the west, the Intracoastal Waterway to the east, and 36th Street to the south. And this is the area within red, which extends beyond the boundaries of the proposed North Flagler Overlay District. And this is a breakdown of how staff came up with the calculations for the contribution amount of $10.98. So the proposed regulations also identifies architectural design standards that includes but is not limited to standards such as front principal pedestrian entrances of all buildings must face North Flagler Drive, which makes new development projects more compatible with the low-scale single-family residences across the street. And it also includes mechanical equipments cannot be located within the front setback area. The proposed regulations also identify a multifamily residential use minimum and maximum parking requirements, as you can see here on the table. And the proposed regulations also require that screening is required for surface parking lots and parking garage, which would require screening along the front facing North Flagler Drive. And the liner buildings should include active uses, which can include a residential unit or a lobby area, a fitness gym area, or meeting spaces. And the proposed regulations also identify active use liner minimum area requirements, as you can see here on the table. 60% of buildable lot frontage for properties with a lot width less than or equal to 100 feet, and 80% of buildable lot frontage for properties with a lot width greater than 100 feet in size. And last but not least, the proposed regulations identify streetscape requirements, which would require developers to provide a 12-foot wide multi-purpose pathway along the east side of North Flagler Drive, a 7-foot wide landscape area, and street lighting within the North Flagler Drive right-of-way. And staff finds that the request complies with all the amendment standards within the city's zoning and land development regulations. And at the last month's planning board meeting, the planning board voted for a recommendation of approval of the subject request. And therefore, staff recommends approval of the subject ordinance. I just wanted to show you this slide, which has all the meetings that staff and the public were involved in for this effort. And that is it for staff. I'll take any questions.
Thank you so much. Commissioners, questions? Commissioner Fox?
Thank you so much. I think it was slide page 15 that you were talking about that no waivers would be granted. I just want to understand, I guess that was the beginning of the presentation, and then you continue to talk about these other incentives. So the variances and waivers and things that are not going to be allowed, but then additional height and other things will be allowed if they're complying with the incentives that we're talking about and the monetary contributions. Can you just talk a little bit more about that, what we're saying, that which variances are not going to be allowed, but that the additional height may be allowed if they comply with these other things?
Yes, so what's being prohibited is the floor area ratio variances, and as I identified in so as you can see here, this is the maximum floor area limitations that we're proposing. And a variance to these maximum floor area limitations will not be allowed, okay? And then also for the front and side setback requirements, so we have these proposed conditional minimum front and side setback requirements. So developers or property owners would not be allowed to request variances from these setback requirements. And and height variances would be prohibited. And as identified, as you can see on this screen, these are the maximum building height limitations. So no variances exceeding these maximum building height limitations will be allowed. And you wanted to ask about the height bonus incentive. So this is only to allow buildings, new proposed buildings, to exceed the permitted base height of 40 feet to get to the maximum building height limitations.
Thank you. That makes sense.
Thank you so much for that further explanation. I did have a question as well on slide 16 related to the FAR. And so these are the two different scenarios that you would foresee?
So the way we came up with, staff came up with these numbers, we took a study of all the approved and existing buildings within this area. And this was the average floor area ratio for the buildings within this area. So we wanted to basically stay in alignment with what's already existing within this area.
Okay, very good. And I appreciate, you also sharing with us the incentives and the community benefits and the outreach that's been done regarding this. I know that the community has been asking, as well as our commissioners, for some predictability in this area, and I think that this outlines that. And are there any other questions from the commissioners? I know we have a few cards here. Angela Ogburn, like to come up and speak, and then we have a couple of cards that I'll read as well. Angela, did I pronounce your last name right?
Ogburn.
Ogburn. Okay, very good. Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Angela Ogburn, a resident in Northwood Harbor community and president of Northwood Harbor Association. I'm here tonight speaking on behalf of our neighborhood association. Thank you for the opportunity to share our comments regarding the Flagler Overlay District. We want to extend our sincere thank you to our commissioner for our district, Commissioner Ward, and as well as to Kevin DeFrank and Anna Marie Aponte and their staff for working collaboratively with our community in creating the North Flagler Overlay. We are excited that this overlay is now coming before the Commission for approval. It establishes shared vision and provides the greater predictability for new construction along the waterfront. It reinforces the area's existing architectural character while guiding development that complements and respects our historic residential neighborhood. For these reasons, the Northwood Harbor Neighborhood Association respectfully requests your support with a yes vote on behalf of the residents we represent. Thank you.
Thank you. And we have a few non-speaker cards. Mary Murphy, I am in favor of the overlay. And Elizabeth Perkowski, I am in approval of the NWH overlay. Thank you so much for your participation and comments. Commissioners, any other questions, comments? Yes, Commissioner Ward.
I was quiet just because I feel like I've asked my questions over the last more year than we've had, and I just wanted to say thank you to staff. Thank you for the participation of the neighborhood, and I know just even my other day job, when you look at something over and over and over again, nothing can be perfect, and so I know that there may be comments afterwards saying we could have done this, we could have done X, Y, and Z, but you guys have done a phenomenal job listening to the residents, trying to, detail what we were trying to do is predictability and making sure that the rest of the neighborhood grows along with the waterfront. And it's been a nice North End night this evening, and I'm just very grateful for you guys. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion.
Madam President, I move to approve ordinance number 5139-25, amending the city's zoning and land development regulations to create the North Flagler Overlay District and zoning regulations for the district at first reading and schedule second reading on September 2nd, 2025. This motion is based upon the factual testimony presented, the staff report, the recommendation of the planning board, and the findings that the proposed amendment complies with all of the amendment standards found in section 94-32 of the city's zoning and land development regulations.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion and second, and this is an ordinance to be read.
Ordinance number 5139-25. An ordinance of the City Commission of the City of West Palm Beach, Florida, amending Chapter 94, Article 2, Sections 94-36, 94-38, and to create Section 94-57, Article 7, and Section 94-236, and amending Article 19, Section 94-611, to create an established development regulation for the North Flagler Overlay District, declaring this proposed zoning text amendment to be consistent with the comprehensive plan and the zoning and land development regulations of the city, providing a conflict clause and a severability clause, providing an effective date, and for other purposes.
Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Moving on to item 8.5, public hearing and first reading of ordinance number 5142-25, establishing a city ordinance for the implementation and operation of a school zone speeding enforcement program in accordance with Florida House Bill 657, codified in Chapter 316, Florida State Statute, and resolution number 192-25, designating police department staff to serve as clerk to the local hearing officer for hearings related to enforcement of the city's school zone speeding enforcement regulations.
Good evening, Madam President and Commission. Tony Spatera, Assistant Chief with the Police Department. So as mentioned, House Bill 657 was passed into law under 316-1896, which allows municipalities to enforce school speed zones using automated speed detection systems. They must be used during school sessions, and violators have to be traveling in excess of 10 miles an hour, so 11 and above. Municipalities can install on their own or contract with a vendor in the designated school zones. We would have to, or the company that we contract with would have to install clear signage indicating photo and video enforcement and specify the exact time periods during which school zone speed limits are enforced. We would have to do a 30-day public announcement so that everyone's aware of the new enforcement in the city. And then once a year, we would have to provide a report to the commission on how many violations happened. The police department would have officers do a few videos that are created from this system that would be established. They would verify the speed, the driver, there's cameras, there's license plate capture, and then we would issue a citation to the vehicle, the registered owner, not necessarily the driver. One of the things that we have to do is enact a formal ordinance, and that's why we're here, is to request that you all approve the ordinance to allow us to move forward with a school speed zone camera enforcement. During this process, we conducted a study with a company. They erected cameras over 3 days. There was potentially 9,400 speed violations. So obviously it became apparent to us in the city we have an issue with speeders through school zones during school hours. This, when passed, you can only do it when school's in session, 30 minutes prior to the start of a school session, through the school day, and then 30 minutes after. So 9,400 in 3 days. In comparison, I had our traffic lieutenant pull the amount of citations that we wrote last year, and there were 630. So we didn't even make a dent in the speeding that's occurring in school zones in the city of West Palm Beach. So we certainly need to move forward with this enforcement. In the statute, like I mentioned, there's a $100 fine that's broken down in the statute. It's subsection 5. $20 of the 100 goes to the state, their general revenue fund. $60 would come to West Palm Beach. $3 would go to the Criminal Justice Standards Training Commission, and that pays for training for officers, like in West Palm Beach, we're in Region 12 to attend advanced training. $12 goes to the Palm Beach County School Board, and that is limited to school safety initiatives. And then $5 would also come to West Palm Beach to help pay for the school crossing guard program that we already have in place. We already pay a substantial amount to provide school crossing guards. This would help finance that as well. Fines can be paid online, in person, or by mail. And then if someone doesn't pay the fine in 30 days, it would escalate to a uniform traffic citation that one of our officers would have to issue to the registered owner of the vehicle. Any questions?
Thank you so much for this presentation. I have a couple questions. I just want to make sure I heard this right. So we did a 3-day study, and in those 3 days, in the time that we're allowed to issue citations, you found 9,400 potential violations versus same time previous year, over 3 days, or the whole year was 630?
The whole year was 630 citations, and that just shows you the force multiplier of what this system can do versus assigning a traffic enforcement officer to go out there and try and do a traffic stop. You know, you're going to do a couple every 10 minutes.
And so it's 30 minutes before school starts, 30 minutes after, and I believe, did I read something that it's also longer than the typical length of the school zone, like school boundaries? What are the physical boundaries?
So that would have to be determined. We would have to clearly mark it with the signs announcing that. And just to clarify, so at 30 minutes before, it's the school speed limit, say it's 20 miles an hour, and then during the school day, it goes to the regular posted speed, say it's 35 or 40, it would be 11 over that, and then at the dismissal, it goes back down to the regular school.
But we would be able to monitor that whole time, even when it's the lower versus the regular speed limit?
Correct.
Great. Okay, great. Commissioner Ward.
Thank you. Just 2 questions. One on infrastructure. I know we previously had camera programs that were removed by the state. So what's the cost, or what are we looking at as far as the infrastructure being brought in to monitor the speed? And then what type of informational campaign should we expect to be provided to the residents to kind of let them know that this is going to be happening?
Okay, so the first one is that we're going to most likely piggyback off of a contract that Plantation did. That it's zero cost. All the initial startup costs will be borne by the vendor, and then the city, once we issue the fines, that's where the revenue would start. So there's $0 startup cost. And then, I'm sorry, the second question was?
Informational campaign for our residents.
So between our PIO and the city's PIO, we would do a public announcement working with the vendor as well to make sure that because ultimately the goal of this is to have people slow down in school zones, not just to cite them.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Peduzzi?
Thank you. Did I read that correctly, that these are commonly treated, if it's an officer conducting a traffic stop and pulling someone over, that it would be a civil violation and not a moving traffic violation?
No, if one of our officers do that would be, because you would then cite the driver, this would cite the registered owner of the vehicle.
Okay, so it's incorrect here that school zone speeding violations in Florida are typically treated as civil infractions, not traffic violations, meaning that points are not typically added to the driver's license. So that's not correct. I don't think it's correct. That's why I was bringing it up.
I was unaware that was in there. I'll have to research and get that answer back to you.
Yeah, that, because it
I
seems like
think
it's
that's
incorrect.
a moving violation, which would incur points. I'll research that and get an answer to you.
And follow up?
Yes.
And this is essentially a municipal violation that we'll be issuing. It's a city violation because it's not a uniform traffic citation until they don't pay it, correct?
Correct.
And are we going to have an in-house hearing officer and then they are able to, if they don't like the outcome, they can appeal it to the circuit court, just like any quasi-judicial board?
So they would go through our system and appeal it, but what we would do is provide the violator or the registered owner the video of their speeding of the car with the tag. So the likelihood will decrease, but yes, they would have the ability to dispute it. And as far, I would have to check with other cities on what they do if they don't agree with the ruling of the hearing officer.
So one more follow-up. So there's no plan for a municipal hearing officer to hear these?
There is, yes, there is a plan for the municipal. The first step would be for them to appeal to the city. They would attend a city hearing to dispute the violation.
That is the hearing officer process. So generally speaking, you would get in the mail the notice of violation for violating the camera that's there, right, for the speeding issue. And then if you either pay it or you, quote unquote, appeal it, the appeal goes to a local hearing officer who hears those issues. If you're further don't like the outcome of the local hearing officer, it's like other municipal boards, it is appealable to the circuit court.
Thank you.
Thank you. I think as people's patience decreases, speeding has increased in the city, and so I'm grateful that we're looking into this. I had a question about the fee split. I forgot what slide it was on, but it said the $60 that came to the city and 21 went to Red Speed. Is that the vendor?
That would be the vendor, yes.
Okay. And then you mentioned, in response to Commissioner Ward's question, that there's zero cost setup fee, so the vendor is paying for the installation of all of the equipment. And then what about the maintenance?
All borne by the vendor. And we looked at other contracts, other companies, and they wanted, one company wanted $75,000 per camera installed, so we went with the company that would, you know.
And just to be clear, there's not a contract yet. That's something to be done.
Right.
Proposed.
Yes.
Thank you. Any other questions, comments? Commissioner Fox?
Thank you. I have several questions. But I guess my first one is, how many can we have, and what schools are we targeting? Is it public schools, private schools, all the schools?
So public schools, there's 15 schools, but it would have to be the designated roads that have designated school zones in front of them.
Okay. Because I was reading in the Palm Beach Post, this must have been the 7 that you targeted, but the top speeding school was Egret Lake Middle with over 3,200 speeders. Dreyfus was 2,600. Jaga Middle and Grassy Waters Elementary, 2,300, and then it drops down to Belvedere, which is 435, which is a huge jump. So, I mean, did you know that those were going to be the top ones? Is that why they were selected in your test?
With Haverhill Road, I figured Egret Lake would be up there. Dreyfus, I don't know that it's clearly marked, and that's one of the main thoroughfares. So the presumption is when we do this public announcement campaign, the speed and number of violators will drop naturally, which is what we're hoping, but then those that don't abide will get the citations.
Yes.
Thank you. So I guess my one question also about Dreyfus, I live directly across the street, and so it's been especially bad this week when school started. I had forgotten how people don't seem to know how to drive, not just the speeding. Nobody stops at stop signs. People, because a lot of the times the cars are backed up all the way from Sapodilla to Tamarind, there's cars that are not going to school that are trying to pass those other cars, and they're speeding by. And so it's really so dangerous, not just for the speeding, but I'm wondering, are these cameras, is there only technology to be able to capture speeding, or can they see other infractions that might be going on in the area?
Just speed. We would have to have an officer there to witness those violations.
Thank you so much. I think it's essential we do what we can to help keep our students safe in the city. Thank you. Hearing no other comments or questions, any public comments? No. I'll entertain a motion. Thank you.
Madam President, I move approval of
card for, what number is this, 8.6, 8.5? Thank you. Michael Cleveland.
That's me. These comments may be recorded and used for other purposes. Good evening, Michael Cleveland, West Palm. I do have some concern of the program that's been considered to be implemented. Number one, the speed, 10 miles over. It's quite a bit. I think it should be down to 5. The fines, $100. But my main concern is repeat offenders. Repeat offenders, it says not to get any points on their license, but I think that's wrong because repeat offenders, you know, they can go years and years with all these stops and nothing happens. I also think there should be a network between this city and other cities for these same offenders. If they get stopped in their city and your city, you know, it's a big thing. But my main point is bus stops, and it has nothing to do with schools, but I think bus stops is more important than school zones. And I think all that should come together because if I get a fine coming through the school zone and then I get a fine with the bus stop, then I'm against the school program. You understand what I'm saying? So it should be all connected in a network, all the schools and municipality in this county, perhaps in the state. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Cleveland. I don't believe there's any other comments on this item. Commissioner Ward?
Sorry, you mentioned it's only for the public schools. If a private school wants to opt in, are you going to be, or how would that work? If they wanted to opt in, pay for the, or work with this red speed or whatever, has that been an internal discussion at all? I just think Flagler, there's so much speeding that goes on during Flagler for drop-off, and a lot of those are private schools.
There is, we could review and see if that would fit within the statute and determine it. And I agree, speeding on Flagler is a huge issue, but also if you can't, then it would free up officers to do enforcement in areas where we don't have.
And if I can add, Commissioner, the ordinance that's before you this evening identifies specifically the schools that it will be the cameras will be placed at, so that if there are additional schools that do fit within the statutory parameters, we would then bring an ordinance change to include them in the program.
Okay, thank you.
Great question. Commissioner Peduzzi?
Yeah, along the same lines, a school zone is a school zone, and I don't think we care any less about private school students than we do public school students, and I never even thought of that, but we have a number of private schools in this city, probably numbering close to the number of public schools, maybe not quite as many. I was surprised to hear that we have 19 public schools within our municipal boundaries. I don't know if that's that accurate, if that number is accurate. But I would say that we should be looking at, having this technology at all school zones in the city. But I guess we'd have to come back on a revision of the ordinance at a later time, Madam City Attorney?
I suppose it depends how long it takes to determine whether or not additional schools should be included. If it could be done before your second reading, we could amend the ordinance before the second reading. If it can't, perhaps you put second reading off a bit longer, or you go ahead and adopt it as is and then do the homework and bring back an amendment to include additional schools. Those would be your options.
Yeah, I'd be interested in seeing that as well. I saw Boca and Wellington were some of the Palm Beach County cities that were included. I know that they have a number of private schools as well.
For clarification, may I? Do we have to actually name the schools? Do we have to enumerate the schools, or can it just be that, this would be for any school zone in the city?
My recollection of this statute was you name the school zones, but I will take a closer look at it. But that's my recollection, and not, in fact, our regulations are drafted to identify specifically the schools that it will be applicable to.
Thank you. And if my colleagues are in agreement, I would suggest that we find out those details maybe before second reading, and maybe have the possibility of us amending it to include all school zones within the city. If we have to enumerate them, that's fine, but including private schools.
Understood.
Thank
And
you.
you didn't mention it, but I assume you mean charter schools as well.
I'm sorry.
All schools and all school zones. Commissioner Fox?
I agree with that. I think we should, if it's not going to take much longer, it would be fine to push off the second reading to incorporate all the schools. Specifically, the Flagler Drive is so, I mean, from the south end, St. Anne's and Rosarian, and then Palm Beach Day, I think it would be fantastic to be able to include all those school zones. And I know that there's many others throughout the city that I don't travel daily, but we definitely want to incorporate all of them. So if that's possible, I would be open to waiting.
If I could recommend then, when the motion is read, if we would substitute the second reading on September 2nd to September 15th to give staff time to look at how that could work, that would be much appreciated.
Thank you. Thank you for your attention to this. I think it's, essential. So no other comments or questions? I'll entertain a motion.
Madam President, I move approval of ordinance number 5142-25 on first reading, schedule second reading on September 15th, 2025, and discuss resolution number 192-25.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion's been made in a second. I believe this is an ordinance that needs to be read, Madam Clerk.
Ordinance number 5142-25. An ordinance of the City Commission of the City of West Palm Beach, Florida, amending Chapter 86, Traffic and Parking, Article 3, Operation of Vehicles, creating Division 6 School Speed Zone Regulations, Section 86-203 Definitions, Section 86-204 Findings, Section 86-205 Purpose and Intent, 86-206 Use of Speed Detection System, Section 86-207 School Zones with Heightened Safety Risk, Section 86-208 Authorizing Traffic Enforcement Officers to issue uniform traffic citations, Section 86-209 Adopting Notice, Penalty and Appeal Provisions provided in Chapter 316.1896 Florida Statutes, Section 86-210 Signage and Public Awareness Campaign, and Section 86-211 Annual Reporting, providing a conflict clause, providing a severability clause, providing a codification clause, providing an effective date, and for other purposes.
Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you so much, Chief. Public comments? Thank you. Michael Cleveland, then Brian Lamb, and Nivea Jean-Louis. Michael Cleveland.
Good evening again. Perhaps I missed something. In a previous presentation item on the agenda, it stated that the existing residents in, I believe, the Northwood area are not grandfathered in as it relates to their land size. They have to go in compliance with the new overlay design. I think that's wrong, but maybe I misunderstood it. In Pleasant City, on Spruce Avenue, the school there, I proposed for a number of years that a circle be placed at 21st and Spruce. That traffic in the morning coming through that school zone is really fast. Got a lot of young kids. Also, the parents are dropping off in the wrong place. Maybe have something to do with it as well. I think that traffic calming device may be beneficial in the future. Broadway 3 weeks ago, Sunday morning, had a police sting for speeders. My only comment there is, that's good that it happened there, but there are other cities within the street that has similar, if not more, desperate needs to have that particular work done. If you will, we'd like to see it along Palm Beach Lakes, and Dixie Highway between Norwood Road and Palm Beach Lakes. Same type of. Thank you very much. Have a good evening.
Thank you, Mr. Cleveland. Brian Lamb.
Good evening. Brian Lamb, West Palm Beach Association of Firefighters. I just came up tonight to want to remind everybody our stair climb, our memorial stair climb to commemorate 9/11. It's going to be held 9/14, so September 14th on Sunday. So anybody that's available, come out. There's always space for you guys to climb. And there'll be a full CrossFit, a 5K fun run. Everybody's invited, so I just wanted to give you guys a little reminder. Hope to see you there.
Thank you. Brian, what is the best recommendation for training for this so that we make it? How many?
So it's 110.
Right,
so
but how
the
many
building's
up
only
and-
21, but when you come down and around, it's kind of different on each side. So you do catch an extra 20, so it is 22 stories. 5 laps.
5 times.
Up, across, down, back around. So 5 times will give you the 110 commemoration that the towers were 110 floors. But yeah, you just got to do it.
Thank you.
And anybody that wants to do it in bunker gear, we can make that happen too for you.
I know a couple of us have done it year after
Yes.
year, and
No,
we
it was
appreciate
great.
it.
You guys all came out, your
Every
commission
time.
on a mission year. That was great.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you for doing that.
Absolutely.
Nivea Jean-Louis.
Hi, Navia Jean Lewis, 323 North Sappadilla, owner of Fantasy Island Restaurant. I've emailed, called, absolutely lost my mind because the traffic engineer has put up signs directly across from our restaurant, which is on the north side of 3rd Street, saying no parking anytime, and have effectively removed all parking that we had, and it is negatively impacting our business. Immediately, people stop coming because they have nowhere to park. We have reservations for parties, birthday parties, that have been canceled because they have nowhere to park. I don't know what else to do but to talk to you all. There are empty lots in the neighborhood. We've offered to purchase them, and we were told no because there's not supposed to be any more parking lots in downtown West Palm Beach. Why would you put a business and not allow us to have parking? We were told there are municipal parking, like 2.5 blocks away. Would you go to a restaurant and walk that far for parking? I mean, even if we have valet, where are we going to put the cars? And so I am reaching out to you all to help me, because this will put us out of business if we do not have patrons. So my question is to you, where do we park? It's not a rhetorical. Please jump in.
Ms. Nivea, you still have a minute, so I don't want to utilize your time if you have more to say.
No, well, the thing is, it's not just us. We've been watching our neighbors be impacted. Friendship, the church, we're trying to work out something with them, but still it's limited parking. There are other people in the area that have nowhere to park. People that come to the park have nowhere to park. What do we do? Your turn.
Thank you. I just want you to know you have 30 more seconds if you have anything else to say.
Go ahead.
I know that I've been in touch with our CRA director about this and talked at length, and I think that this is something we need to address, and have talked to the engineering staff. Our assistant city administrator, Armando Fana, will speak with you now about that, and I'm sure my other commissioners would make themselves available to chat with you more, but we want to make sure that you're successful. Many of us were at your grand opening or have visited since then, and we have invested a lot in this community. I know that there have been some special accommodations made for Sunday church at Friendship, so let's see what else we can do to continue making this a success.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Fana. Any other public comments? All right, hearing none, we'll hear from the commissioners. Commissioner Warren, we'll start with you.
Thank you, President Lambert. August is National Make a Will Month, a time dedicated to raising awareness about the importance of estate planning and encouraging individuals to create or update their wills. This month serves as a reminder for people to get their affairs in order, ensure their wishes are documented and followed after their demise. The Legal Aid Society of Palm Beach County provides free and low-cost legal services to low-income individuals, and websites like FreeWill offer tools and resources to help you create one. In addition to make a will, make a trust, medical power of attorney, identify your beneficiaries, at the very least put a POD on your bank accounts, on all of your bank accounts if they are not included in your estate planning. The City of West Palm Beach will proudly honor and recognize Friendship Missionary Baptist Church with a proclamation and celebration of the church's 122nd anniversary. The presentation will take place on Sunday, August 24th at 10 a.m., acknowledging the church's unwavering dedication and service to the community, as well as the commitment of Pastor Lovett. So we invite you to come out and celebrate with Friendship Missionary Baptist Church on Sunday, August 24th. Thank you.
Commissioner Ward?
Thank you. And I know that just to address the comments, I know we talked in the CRA about having utilizing the churches and all the parking lots. So I'm hoping that we can get that figured out relatively quickly, because we talked about it and went over it in anticipation of these businesses. So I hope that we can act swiftly on that. On Thursday, August 21st, from 6 to 8, please join the City CRA and neighbors for the quarterly meeting at Pleasant City Community. We're going to have just general updates for the Pleasant City community. The meeting takes place at the Community Center at 501 21st Street. For more information, you can contact the CRA or my office. And also on Thursday, August 28th, the following week, join the city for the Way Forward Community Mobility and Safety Planning. It's an open house at City Hall from 6 to 7:30, and kids are welcome. We can see progress on projects and speak directly with staff and share your thoughts on new initiatives. So please come out. Again, it's at City Hall, Thursday, August 28th. And those are all my comments. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Fox?
Thank you so much. I think Nivea is gone, but I did want to address her comments, because what happened was that on 3rd Street, right in front of her property, it's between Division and Sapodilla, they're right in front of the park. I mean, I used to park there all the time. I never knew there was no parking. That suddenly she goes in one day and there's no parking signs put all on the street. And so the engineering department says, and I'm sure that they're correct, that they would know better than I would, but that was always supposed to be a no parking area, and that there were signs there that maybe they were hidden or they were faded, or, I mean, I never knew that you couldn't park there. In all the times that I've been going to that area, I've parked there. So if you're a business owner and you think you already have a problem with parking, and then one day you go in and now all of your parking is gone, that it's no parking signs, people are getting towed and getting ticketed, I mean, this is really a serious issue, because this is a small business that already, we already knew that we had parking issues in that neighborhood. And so I have talked to the CRA director, and, we are trying to work with the churches there, but I don't think that's going to be enough, because it wasn't going to be enough before, and now we've just lost 10 or 20 extra parking spots. And so I don't necessarily have a solution for it right now. But I did want to just expand on what she was talking about, because it came as a surprise to everyone in the neighborhood that they just walked in one day and the engineering department is putting up no parking signs. And so, I'd love to talk about this more, and if there's other solutions, maybe there is a workshop, or talking further with the CRA if there's any more progress with the church parking lot in the neighborhood. But just wanted to continue to keep that conversation going. In addition to the event that Commissioner Ward mentioned on August 28th, the mobility safety planning event also on August 28th, if you are a Parrot Head out there, there will be a tribute to Jimmy Buffett at Clematis by Night that evening. So it's possible you can do both. Stop by City Hall for the community mobility planning at 6, and then walk on over to the waterfront for the Jimmy Buffett tribute band. And that's all I have. Thanks.
Thank you. Commissioner Peduzzi?
Thank you. No comments this evening.
Thank you. And I think this is a great conversation we're having about this parking situation. I think there's a number of issues for us to consider. And, you know, what's interesting is, of course, we want all businesses to succeed in the city, but we're the landlords of this property as well. I mean, we have definitely even more vested interest. And then, Commissioner Ward, you bring up a good point about the churches. I know as it relates to one of the churches there, they're now having second thoughts because of the liability of parking on that property. And then also that it would create problems if they want to have events in the evenings that their property is not available for. And so it's definitely an issue that I think we need to continue to brainstorm and try to find successful solutions for. So I welcome the opportunity to continue this dialogue. I don't have any other comments as well, so thank you all for joining us. This meeting is adjourned.